We're back on. All right. Hey, Rudy.
Felipe,
How are you, man?
I'm blessed. How about yourself?
Doing the same, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything's pretty good, you know?
Okay.
Moving upward and forward and upward. Um,
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here today. This is going to be a personal treat of mine, as I've always had questions for just, I think, musicians like yourself that are, you're a real lifer. No? I mean, is there, so I had a couple questions about, just general music questions and things about all the amazing things you've done, but also wanted to, at any point, if there's anything you wanted to kind of share, I'd love to, go on whatever path you're feeling.
Yeah. I'm open. I'm open to any possibilities and suggestions. Nothing is off. We could
Cool,
talk
man.
about anything you want. So
Cool,
I'm an
man. Well,
open
I
book.
guess awesome, awesome. I've gotten that sense from I've seen you in different interviews, and you're just always so open to sharing, and I think that's really cool, man. That's something that I take a lot of inspiration from, is seeing a musician like yourself who's really dedicated to the craft and the passion, and I hope I'm speaking right. You haven't lost the fire for it.
Mm. I mean, you can't even practice without the fire. So even if you're staying at home, doing it for your own enjoyment, which it should always start with you.
Uh
Are
huh.
we on? Are we actually? Are we
Yeah,
live?
yeah. We're live. Yeah,
Let's
I'm
rock
actually going to
this.
be able to ask
I love that.
questions.
I love that.
Awesome.
Okay, I love that. And yeah, it's the process, as you know. I mean, you've been in many bands and work in different projects, and it's, let's say, you become a fan of music, you pick up an instrument, and then you learn it well enough that you can actually start communicating with other musicians, which is like speaking.
Right.
Pretty.
It's a language.
It's like
Absolutely.
speaking. It's like when you're a baby, you communicate with your parents, and sometimes it's by physical, by body language, and then you start learning to speak, and then you go to school,
Yeah.
kindergarten, with your little friends in the same, at the same level. You start speaking, communicating, and whatever, right? So being in a band is the same thing. So, like in kindergarten, what happens in that classroom? That's what you really care about, and you
Yeah.
really care about how you communicate with your other classmates and what you guys create. And it's like a microcosm. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little world that you're in, right? A
Yeah.
band is the same thing. We learn an instrument well enough to start, playing songs that we like and we hear, and we find like-minded musicians to do the same. We get in a room, and it's about us.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. The first band that really comes to mind that really represents that to me was when I joined Quiet Riot in 1978. And
Cool.
I have been in many bands before that, but they were top 40 bands. Top 40.
Mm-hmm.
I would just go out
Yeah.
there and play clubs and make some money and, basically get some mileage, get some
Mm-hmm.
experience on stage and building your craft, your chops, everything, right? But at a certain point, you're going to make a decision whether you're going to be a, somebody who makes a living out of playing clubs, top 40, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you're going to become a professional recording and touring musician, right?
Yes,
So I
sir.
did that. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
left Miami in search of what I found. About a few years later, after leaving Florida, I traveled all over the United States, playing clubs with different bands. Wound up in LA, and at some point in 1978, I started playing with Quiet Riot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with Randy Rhoads, Kevin DeBro, Drew Forsythe on drums, and myself.
Awesome.
And so what happens is, we didn't have any social media, nothing. No
Mm-hmm.
distractions. All we did is play. Randy, speaking about no distractions, he would
Yeah.
go, he would teach
Right.
in the
Right.
day, about 8 hours at least, teaching. Then he would come to rehearsal, Quiet Riot rehearsal. We would do the set, forwards and backwards, our set, Quiet Riot
Right.
set, or a lot of original material, a lot of, a few versions of, like, we would do, like, maybe some small faces or whatever, song that the band like, reworked it, make it sound like Quiet Riot, and then work on new material. And that would be just about every night. No time to talk about any distraction, Facebook, no time to talk about politics, no time to talk about sports. It was all about the music. And what
Awesome.
we care is that, just like a little classroom, all your buddies, how we get along, the focus was on how we felt about the music. How can we make Quiet Riot better than we were
Awesome.
the last time that we played? How can we
Hmm.
make this Quiet Riot demo better? How can we present what we do to the record companies? There was definitely a, not only a focus but a strategy how to do things, how we're gonna get there. And at some point, just with a few bands, what happened was that we hit a wall. At the time that Randy Rhoads, this was offered to the spot in Ozzy's band, to start working with Ozzy, playing with him, we had hit a wall in the industry. The type of music that the record company was looking for at the time. This is 78, 79. Actually, is when
Yeah.
Randy
And
joined
like the new
Ozzy.
wave. Hmm.
New wave and punk. That was it.
Right.
And so Randy was offered it. His mom recommended, say, listen, you might never get this opportunity again. you know and it
Right.
took Randy to leave LA, go to England, be himself, because I gotta say, we were trying to please the labels. Really,
Right.
we will meet with
Hmm.
them, and they
Yeah.
would say, well, if you guys come up with a song like "Do You Think I'm Sexy" by Rod Stewart, we
Right.
can talk. And then we'll go in and write something like "One in a Million."
Hmm.
There's that, there's, like, on YouTube, anybody that's interested, there's like demos of that song. And then we
Cool.
would come back with that song, and they say, well, that Rod Stewart song is not in the charts anymore, so how about this other song? So we were chasing our tails around, you
Oh
know
man.
banging our heads against the wall before headbanging was existed.
Bang your
So
head.
we were the first headbangers.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I gotta say, just about every other band that, from the Sunset Strip, that became famous in the 80s, such as, early versions of what became Motley Crue and Dokken and Rat and Great White, and a bunch of others. We were all
Yeah.
banging our heads against the wall in the
Right.
late 70s. But it
Hmm.
took Randy to go to England with Ozzy. Now, Ozzy had a record deal, and they were just
Sure.
writing music for the record. So they didn't have to
Hmm.
please anybody but
Hmm.
themselves. Randy
Right.
didn't have to please anybody but Ozzy, and Ozzy said, "Man, be yourself." So
That's
that's
cool.
that's where you get those two records, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman.
Hmm.
From Randy being true to himself, not trying to second guess what the record companies want. It's just what was happening in that room.
Hmm.
First it was him and Ozzy, then Bob Daisley came in, and then Lee Kerslake. That was it.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure Sharon would come in and say, "Oh, that sounds nice," or whatever. But it was them, and they did it because they were pleasing each other, which is the perfect formula for any great record. The same thing with Quiet Riot. We came back with Metal Health.
Hmm.
The bulk of those songs were written when Kevin had the band Dubrow. I played with him in the band Dubrow right before I joined Ozzy. I was living with him. And it
Cool.
was it was the same, just pleasing. Okay, we like the song, so now we're gonna play it on stage, and hopefully people like it.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. You're gonna put it on a record. Every record that you make it should be that, hey, we like the record, especially the first record, which is your best songs from the last 5 to 10 years,
Right.
because you're not
Yeah.
making a record before that, so you're writing material and you pick
Yeah.
songs. Well, this is the best I got. I've been working at this for 5 years, with the guys, and you put that out and again. you hope everybody likes it, but it's got to come from you, from the individual, from the band.
Yeah. Did you write a lot of material on your own that you brought to the band?
We had different writing methodology back then.
Hmm.
I've gotten further into more, polyphonic instruments. I
Yeah.
write better with a guitar. I write better with a keyboard. So I can actually show somebody this is the song. And right now, it's like we can make a demo on our iPhone right here.
Yeah.
Just make a demo of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, I got this. What do you guys think? So we so
Cool.
we do it that way.
Hmm.
My whole methodology of recording is even different. I really have time to work on my bass parts, and I think
Hmm.
about them a lot. I got time to audition all my instruments. If you see, you can see a few here,
Yeah.
but the ones that are right next to me, like these, I don't know, yeah, those,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
those are the
Cool.
ones that like let's say I'm working on a project. I got these right here, and I just grab them and I play
Yeah.
them. Then I work on a different project. Then I start auditioning other basses because they
Hmm.
have to sit in with what the sound of the band, the project is.
I
As a matter of fact,
couldn't agree more.
I'm going through the process of transitioning from the Guess Who to Quiet Riot.
That.
And I know what the sound of Quiet Riot is because I've been there since 1978, on and off, right?
Hmm.
So I know what the classic Quiet Riot sound is. And so there's certain basses that I know are going to be
That's
coming on the road with me because
cool. What
these
are the
this
top two or three this time around?
top 2 or 3. Okay, passive, not
Mhm.
with
Not
no
active.
preamps in them.
Hmm.
Uh, passive basses, anything. I used to play Fenders back then, and later on, because by the time that I was playing with Ozzy, I had basses such as the Music Man's Saber with
Yeah.
the two pickups, but those have preamps.
Hmm.
But the sound that I'm going for is more like closer to the sound that I have in Quiet Riot with Randy. Very
Hmm.
punchy, much more organic sounding. So I'm definitely actually I'm working with Spectre. They're building me a bass to take on the road with Quiet Riot because we talked about that. We
That's
talked
cool.
about what my current needs are. So they're building me a brand new bass. It's going to have it's going to be passive with a split pickup and a
Hmm.
jazz pickup, and that should cover it. That should be the main bass. But I also have other basses. I mean, if you ask me, but that is the configuration that I'm looking forward to take.
Hmm.
And pedals. See, back in the day, uh, in the 70s and even in the early 80s, there were no major company that would put out specifically bass pedals. Pedals made for the bass guitar.
Right.
There were for the guitar, and sometimes you
Hmm.
would plug it in, and because of the pots, the frequency response of those pedals, they would shelf your low end.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of the manufacturers start building a specific bass preamps for the bass to be put in the bass,
Hmm.
but which is great
Yeah.
if that's the tone that you're looking for, if that's the
Right.
tone that you want. But you're just basically that's it. That's what
Hmm.
you're gonna get about that instrument. I'd rather go the route of having a passive bass and having multiple preamps or
Hmm.
pedals to actually get the color that I want with one
Yeah.
bass, with one passive bass.
That makes sense. And how uh how are you guys tuning these days? Are you
Uh,
sticking with one tuning for the majority of your songs for a set, or do you have to
oh
switch a
yeah,
lot?
yeah. It all depends in the band.
Mhm.
Interesting to talk about tuning because interesting because back in the original, with Randy, the Quiet
Mhm.
Riot, with Randy in the 70s, we had this early version of a tuner with a Korg with a pitch like a woo so you can
Oh,
pick the pitch, right? And there
cool.
was a way that Kevin would hear it and go, "That's it. That's the one." It was not E flat. It was
440.
not A440. No, it was 432. So
Whoa.
he would hear it naturally. And I mean, I've done some 432 testing.
Hmm.
Like blindfold. Like, okay, you listen to it, which is the one that really it moves you emotionally. 432 every time. I
Wow.
swear.
I've read
I
about that a little. That's so interesting.
I know some people will argue with me, but I can only go by the way that I feel. And if they ever want to test me with it, do a blindfold test, I'm all up for it.
Wow. Wow. That's so amazing. Because a lot of the, the original records, it sounds like sometimes not Quiet Riot specifically, but it sounds like they would be pitching it to either maybe the piano of the studio, or maybe they did it at
Yeah,
440 and then raised it up a bit by speeding it up, or just
yeah.
but I'm
No,
always
no.
curious how you arrive at that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, we never did that. Okay, now you haven't said that about the piano. If you go to tracks such as Thunderbird, there's a
Hmm.
piano in there. And remember, this is 1980. It was recording in 82. I'm not aware. I am not aware if in the industry there were multi tuning synthesizers at the time.
Hmm.
Thunderbird is actually on an acoustic piano,
Yeah.
the piano part on that. There was other songs in there. They have like some kind of like synthesizer in the background. So for those songs, we probably did have to tune to pitch A440. But the ones that
Uh-huh.
were not, we were open. As a matter of fact, live we did that. That's how we mostly, we performed 432. As a matter of fact, the last tour that I did with Quiet Riot, we had one of those rack mounted Korg tuners.
Like a strobe
And
tuner.
yeah, the strobe tune. Well, yeah, it's like rack mounted, but it's not. It's
Mhm.
not like the Peterson strobe. It's
Peterson's
like
right.
a strobe, but it's like a line, right?
Mhm.
So we would put two pieces of tape at the very end to signify this is the
That's
432. So it was not
wow.
here in the middle. It was like tuned all the way to the side. I would just use that.
That's hip, man. Now you gave me another excuse to buy another guitar to keep one at 432.
Yeah, well, you know what, and I'm going to tell you something. We used to do these festivals, like it was called the Rock Never Stop, which was like about 4 or 5 bands on the bill, and there would
Cool.
be a band before us, and of course a band after us, and every time we play, at following a band that was tuned to A440 or E flat, we sounded out of tune because
What in
they
relation? Yeah.
in
Yeah.
relation to what everybody, or even the radio. If you listen to a radio, it's very rare that you hear somebody tuned to 432. You know,
Wow.
so that would happen. It would take the ear, even my ear, would take about a couple of songs to adjust.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really cool. So talking about gear, I was actually going to ask you something. Do you find? I mean, I know it depends on the music, but do you find that bringing your road gear to the studio or vice versa is something you're kind of used to doing, or you have like a separate way that you approach it entirely?
Well, it all depends. I mean, I've been in studios where engineers request not to bring anything but your basses, and if that's the case, this is what I do.
Okay,
Okay, okay, this is
I
what I
got my
do.
pencil ready. This is cool.
Okay, write this down.
Yeah.
Okay. In my case, I bring to a 1959 and a 1966 Fender Precision, because once you
Yeah.
walk in with an instrument that through the history of recording has been proven to be the most recorded bass ever, an engineer is going to make sure that it's going to sound the best it can be.
Yeah.
And it's not going to blame it on you. If he cannot make one of these puppies sound, you know, great, there's something wrong with the guy.
Right.
It's- right? Now,
It's
if
your
you
litmus
bring it,
test.
yeah, if you bring boutique instruments, they go like, I'm not used to that. it's got too much stuff in it. It's got like preamps and this and that, and it's too exotic and the wood or whatever. No, bring in a proven instrument, and you're gonna get the best results.
Mm-hmm. That's
Now,
great.
if you're working on your own, that's completely different
Yeah.
because you know your ears, you know what you want. It's a compromise when you're doing a session, and I'm talking about a session, not necessarily my band,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because that's a whole different experience. But doing a session for somebody, I actually do more sessions for other people than I just got back into Quiet Riot, and I did a track a few months ago. So
Cool.
I'm getting back into becoming the bass player of Quiet Riot and thinking in that frame of mind. But as
Mm-hmm.
far as doing sessions, it's a very diplomatic situation because most of the times is you're there because you've been hired by a client, not
Mm-hmm.
the engineer. So the
Right.
engineer has to work with you. You have to work with him, most important, and you have to please the client who has brought you in.
Mm-hmm. Is there any particular producer you work with a lot on sessions?
No, not really. Not really, because it's rare that I actually go in the studio because I do so many projects from anywhere. Right now, I just finished a track for somebody for a project that I've been doing in Ecuador, and then I just finished another track right before that one for Sweden.
Wow. And you record at your home studio there?
Oh God, yeah,
Wow. And
yeah.
what kind of general setup do you have at home? How's that changed over the years?
I keep was one of the best. It's not really a secret because I talk about this, and one of the best recording tools, and I have a few options, but
Yeah.
I gotta go for the best and the simplest. But the simplest sounds the best.
Sure.
Believe it or not, have you heard of the positive grid spark?
No.
Okay,
Wait.
yeah,
Yes, the amp. Is that
yeah,
the modeling one?
yeah. It's
Yes,
this
I
little
do know.
amplifier. Okay,
Yeah, the little guy. You
yeah. I
use
mean,
that with the app?
it's right here, right? Okay, I got it right next
Yeah.
to me. Okay,
That's
now the spark is many things. As a matter of fact, I haven't even used 50, at least 50 to 75% of the features. Like as a practice amp, I've used it for sometimes learning songs, more like brushing it up. So I
hmm
use that and put the
cool.
headphones on. But one of the favorite things that I like to do with it is it has a USB in. So
Right.
I go into it, right? USB in into my laptop. I go Pro Tools, and it has a driver, a positive grid driver that I open
Right.
up in Pro Tools,
hmm
and which means I use it Pro Tools 12, so I can go low latency mode without having the effect
Right. Right.
removed.
Wow.
It will go bypass, right? Once you
hmm
start putting plugins and I think 10, 12, or whatever, the plugin is bypassed, which means that you cannot hear what the tone that you're playing to.
hmm
So, and to me that is so important because that's part of your articulation,
Right.
right?
The
If you're
sound,
going to
the
have
reaction
overdrive,
to your
yeah,
sound.
yeah. So let's say you played clean and then you add overdrive. It's a different articulation than if you were listening to it with the actual plugin. Well, the
Yeah.
plugins are built into this,
hmm
so it has no effect on it, you
Yeah.
know. And I gotta tell you, I'm getting the best results
Wow.
using this Spark
What
recording.
a good pitch, man. That's cool.
Anything, well, I mean, no, I've talked about this. I've
Yeah.
done with Positive Grid. I've done it, or even with Bass Magazine. I've done
hmm
this particular, and it's like I won't even tell people because they might not. Let's say the client, they'll go, "Wow, what a great bass tone." I go, "Thanks,"
Yeah.
because if they think that I'm using the spark, they go like, oh man, what's this guy doing? Is he crazy? No, no, listen to it. Listen to the results, and then you tell me, Yeah, it's I
Yeah.
mean, and fretless. I just plug in, and there's like presets, and I just like I do some tweaking, and I save the presets. So every time I go to a certain bass, the presets already built in there. So I
Right.
just bring it up, play it. If I say I have like for all types, and I save them all, and if
That
I
is
go, I'm
that's
playing a
efficient.
precision. Huh? Oh, it's
That's so
super
efficient.
efficient.
That makes
Oh,
sense.
and it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and you get
good.
rid of the whole latency issue.
Yeah. 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 Which I think is a big thing in the digital world.
Yeah,
It's that we're already
yeah,
trying to create
yeah,
space
yeah.
without space, you know? So
Another
yeah.
option that I use, well, having said that, let's say I'm using the positive grid as the interface.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's a type of project that I'm going to give the client options.
Hmm.
So I tell them, okay, I'm gonna give you two tracks. One of them is gonna be more like a DI
Right.
track, and the other one is gonna be the sound that I think sounds great with the track. So you have options, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
They
what
can
I
always reamp it, kind of thing.
exactly. So what I do is I send them a clean preset from the Spark, and then I copy that. I duplicate that track. So now I got two tracks of the same. Then I put in as a plugin, and this is post. Right, I've
Hmm.
already tracked my track is done. I go to the SVT plugin, the new one from
Oh,
Ampeg.
cool. Hmm.
Ampeg. That's
Awesome.
it. If that's the tone that you're looking for, Ampeg, there's no better plugin than that one.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal what they've been able
Awesome.
to do with it. So then I'll give them both, okay? Or maybe you can use both and mix them a little bit. You
Right.
have more of a dry and then the ampeg, the growl of that. Another one that I use is the and I've used. I mean, there's a few dark glass if I'm going for like death metal type of
Hmm.
sound. Dark glass is great for that. And also two notes. Are you familiar with the two notes torpedo pedal?
The pedal. Yeah, I've heard. I've never
Yes,
used one. Yeah.
yes. It's also it has impulse response IRs that I
Hmm.
can download and just have like I use it live. The
Oh,
torpedo
wow.
pedal. Yeah, I
Hmm.
use it live because I can. I use a live not only as a source to go into my amplifier, which is an SVT.
Yeah.
But see, when you're on the road and you're getting backline, you just don't
At
know
the
what you're gonna
mercy of the
get.
gear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I go out and I have different a combination of settings with less and more of what I need, and then I dial like a flat tone on my
Hmm.
ampeg, right? And then I go out of the pedal with IRs, different
Hmm.
combinations of different amplifiers and amps and preamps, and I go into the input. And then I start looking. I mean, they're much pretty close, so I'm just tweaking it. I go, okay, that's it. Then I send the same sound, the same tone, DI to the front of the house. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not even miking it anymore.
Hmm.
What would have
That's
been
a big
mic'd,
thing.
yeah.
Hmm.
So there's no ambient leakage or anything.
Right.
It's just this tone. It's the same tone going to my amplifier that I play to. That's what I'm
Hmm.
feeding the front of the house.
Wow.
XLR,
Yeah.
as a DI.
So do you still
Phenomenal.
use a floor wedge or more in-ear stuff these days?
Well, I've been using in-ears with the
Hmm.
Guess Who. Now I'm transitioning into Quiet Riot, but I use the Ultimate Ears,
Okay.
the
Cool.
11s, which are just for the
Mhm.
for the bass. Phenomenal. And most of the time, I just use one ear.
Right.
One
Yeah.
ear and the other one is ambient.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's really improved my articulation because I don't have to play as hard to be heard.
Hmm. You can
Wherever
really
I go
dial
on
in.
stage, the sound is there. Yeah,
Hmm. Wow, that's cool. How about, all right, quick question.
yeah.
Pick to fingers. What do
Uh,
you
Moderna, Pfizer, Pepsi, Coke, whatever you need, Phillips screwdriver, flathead. It's whatever the song calls for.
That's cool. I mean,
I,
people are on the fence about that stuff, and
oh no.
I mean, but great players have played both, so
As a matter of fact, I see this. This is
yeah.
my bowl of magic, the magic picks of destiny, right here.
I got one too, and I got the worst pick I have is the pick at Destiny.
The pick of destiny.
It's like a
I
toy, but
got I
it's
got my
good.
own brand of picks from Chromacast for bass. So
Yeah,
I use pick. Just as a matter of fact,
yeah,
I did a whole tour with Whitesnake in 1994 with pick. The whole
yeah,
tour just because I wanted to do it. With the pick.
yeah.
You know,
That's cool.
and it's a whole different experience.
Sure.
I cannot showboat as much with the
Oh,
pick as I can with the bass. I mean, with my
yeah.
fingers
Right, right.
or slap and things like that. So it all depends. But
Yeah.
definitely for the studio, if the tone is not sitting where it should sit, I go for a pick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes
yeah.
sense. I mean, I played guitar
Mhm.
longer, and when I got into the bass, it was a kind of a awkward thing to move into fingers, but there's such a different tone and different groove, and it's just nice to be able to
Yeah.
go back and forth. That's
I,
cool.
I mean, for anybody who have any doubts, go YouTube, look for Bobby Vega. Bobby Vega,
Mhm.
bass player. Check out his videos. He'll be just as grooving with the fingers as with the pick.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I had a question for you about we're here on a creative exchange, of course. How did you get linked up to them? How were you connected? I think it was Rich Ezra who knew you and knew Sass. And how have you been liking it?
I you know that's a good question because I'm very active on social media,
Hmm.
and I do a lot of promotion. I promote, of course, now Quiet Riot, and before the Guess Who. I like to interact with people. Uh, in my radio show, 6 Degrees of Sarzo, Monsters of Rock Radio.
Yeah,
So there's I'm always busy, really busy. You know, yeah, very active, very busy, which make allows me to be creative.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's I think one of the nicer things about the social media platforms and technology is that you could share a lot.
Yeah,
People
or
sometimes share things you shouldn't share, but sometimes like
I
this, you share a lot of
it's an
you know.
incredible medium for anybody that wants to learn anything from playing an instrument to quantum physics.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like we become a world where more information can be
Oh
shared
my
than ever.
god, and it's all related.
Yeah,
It
that's awesome.
is.
So,
It
do
is.
you have any other than Quiet Riot? You have anything else you're releasing or anything you're working on coming up musically or with any bands?
That is really a good question. I mean, anything that is an outside project, I mean, outside of Quiet Riot, it's up to whoever is heading the project to release it.
Mhm.
I just work on it, send my tracks, and it's up to them to put it out.
Yeah.
They're they have
Uh,
control of that. Yeah.
do you have any, I guess, solo material you've never gotten to play live that you have thought about, putting
No,
together your own band for?
no, no, because my solo material it would be a deviation of what people know me for, just because why would I want to do a solo material of the same thing that I've been doing? I would like to expand my musical horizons and do something different. It would
Hmm.
be crazy to keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right, right.
I mean, but then having said that, with Quiet Riot, it will be Quiet Riot style material,
Hmm.
you know. And
Right.
then what people expect from a brand is like if you put Kellogg's and you have Fruity Loops, when you buy that box, you better open it and get Fruity Loops in there.
Right. That's the expectation. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So if you could have like a dream band that you just did one tour with, do you have anything like your imagination? Just I would go out with a salsa band fronted by Shaggy or Sting or something. Anything like that? Like
Yeah. Yeah. I learned early on, 40 years ago, that my dreams will always fall short of what God will bless me with. Because I never dreamed that I would have been in a band with Ozzy Osbourne, Tommy Aldridge, and Randy Rhoads. So from that, I said, you know what? I'm going to leave it up to God.
yeah, just
From
keep
that
following your
point on,
passion.
we never dreamed when we were recording Metal Health, the record, that it would ever go to number one. No,
Right.
you're
Wow.
kidding. I never dreamed that I would be in a band such as Whitesnake,
Hmm.
where not only David Coverdale, but also with Steve Vai and Vivian Campbell and Adrian Vandenberg, and of course Tommy, who I was playing with in Ozzy. And I never dreamed that I would ever play with somebody like Ronnie James Dio, and I did.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I never dreamed that I was going to be back again
Hmm.
in Quiet Riot. So, I my dreams usually fall short of what my agent, known as God, has in store for me.
Wow. That's hip, man. And I think that's just another one of those things where you don't really write it. You just follow your passion and
Oh yeah,
go with it. That's
yeah.
cool. I saw an interview recently with Steve Vai. He said something very along those lines. It was fascinating to hear because from having watched someone just it's almost like the path that they've been on makes so much sense when you see it backwards. But while it's
Mm.
going, it must be hard to see it because it feels like it's going back and forth.
But you know what? In a way, it's a draft that
Hmm.
it's reverse engineering, but without the details. It's kind of
Hmm.
like it's kind of like I want to get to the moon. Let's say I want to get to the moon. It's a thought. Oh, okay. It's a goal, right? How
Hmm.
are we gonna get there? That's what's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the journey of it
Journey.
all.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when I was a kid. Yeah, I want to be in a rock band and I want to tour the world and record. Yeah, okay, I am doing that. But I could never dream that I would be doing with such incredible people.
That's really cool. And do you have a different regiment when you're on the road versus home with anything in particular? Not just, your instrument, but anything in particular, your sleep, your exercise, those kind of things?
Yeah, that's really good. I have finally found the formula that works for me the best as far as exercising, which is to be able to do the same, and I hate to call it routine, but it's the same set of exercises at home that I do on the road, and it's yoga, and specifically it's DDP Yoga, which was
Hmm.
recommended to me by my friend Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Chris. So I'm hanging with Chris and I go, how do you do this? How do you like go to the Tokyo Dome? You go one of those super matches. The next day you're on a plane and you're doing a gig with Fozzy. How you do that? And he says, DDP Yoga. And I said,
Cool.
what's that? So he just turned me onto it. Yeah.
That's hit, man. And how about
Yeah.
like, with your time on your instrument? I mean, do you have like a regiment there? You just kind of work on the material you have coming up, kind of thing.
It's very simple. If I'm not talking to you, I'm playing the bass.
Awesome.
There's no regimen. It's
It's just
there.
it's connected.
It's the focus. What do you put? Now I'm putting the focus in our conversation. Once the conversation comes to an end, I put my focus back on the bass, along with
Wow.
my family.
Hmm.
Everything is connected. I'm home. I'll take the bass. It's waiting for me by my favorite spot on the sofa, We have dinner on the sofa, watch TV, I pick up the bass, and until my little dog around 8:30 will come and stare at me, which means put the bass down, lay down on the couch, and I'm going to jump and cuddle with you. And it happens every night
That's great. That's great. Yeah, dogs are great like that.
because she's the boss. She's
That's
sleeping
cool.
right there now.
So you must be pretty excited to get back out on the road. I mean, everybody's
Oh
been
yeah. Well,
stuck inside.
I've been on the road. We picked it up this summer,
This
on and
summer,
off.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, we've been doing some days with the Guess Who, but I'm very, very excited to pick it up with Quiet Riot. It's
It's been
yeah,
18
because
years.
18 years. Yeah, it's been
Wow.
it's a whole different set of dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm already working on it because it's one thing is you have to become.
Yeah.
I need to re-identify with that musician, and it's a whole different frame of mindset.
What are the rehearsals like for that kind of tour?
Well, we already have one rehearsal, combination of rehearsal and photo shoot, and it was very interesting because I've been in this situation many times in the same situation that the members of Quiet Riot, uh, let's say Johnny Kelly, the
Mm-hmm.
drummer, previously with Danzig and Typo Negative. Uh, he was picked by Frankie
Mm-hmm.
to take his spot, and he's doing an incredible job of paying tribute to Frankie, but also he's got to be himself. It's like
Yeah.
when I joined a band, I try to pay tribute to whoever was there before me, the history, the legacy, but still at some point I got to be me.
Sure.
Play the songs, but be yourself.
Yeah.
And Jizzy, the same thing. Jizzy is doing Jizzy Pearl, our singer, is doing an
Mm-hmm.
incredible job. Formerly with Love Hate, and these are guys that have a legacy. These are not just guys, that just came from like obscurity. No, they already been to touring, headlining, record deals, and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
Also with Jizzy being part of Love Hate, being part of the Sunset Strip scene, we
Mm-hmm.
we drank from the same well, and of course you have Alex Grossi, who was picked by Kevin to be the guitar player in the band, and over 18 years ago, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so everybody's bringing a bit of themselves, but still paying tribute to what's already to what was on the record. The last time I played
Yeah.
with Quiet Riot, it was 2003, and it was with Kevin, Carlos, and Frankie. And we did not play the songs exactly like they were recorded.
Yeah.
No band does that,
Yeah.
because you grow as musicians, and I'm a better bass player today than I was 40 years ago. Well, it's going to be, uh, let's see, next year, 2022, it's going to be 40 years that we recorded the album Mental Health.
Yeah.
40 years, So 40
Amazing.
years later, I'm a better musician. I got better ideas of how to approach the song. And I'm feeding off players that have their own ideas. So it's all
Mm-hmm.
about that. Yes, you have to respect the legacy and everything about the band, but also you have to be organic. It has to be an organic performance.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's the spirit of the music, especially. It was,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it was that emotion and the connection at the time. That,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's cool. So I can't wait to see you live. When are you coming to the area? You gonna be in New York sometime soon?
Yeah, right now we're looking at 2022. We just came from Nashville. Alex Grossi and I, we were at the International Entertainment Buyers association conference, which is
Hmm.
where the agents and promoters gather to basically buy tours, bands for the tours and put them all together. And it was an incredible response. So right now, our agents are looking into offers that have come in and setting up our schedule for next year.
Wow, that's actually interesting you mentioned because I was curious about like what your team has looked like over the years. Like, I mean, obviously you must get calls for gigs through people that know you're playing or are hoping to, see if you're available. But would you have any recommendations for musicians who have been, playing but want to expand? I mean, obviously the social media, but I mean the kind of the old tried and true, it's who you know and word of mouth. Do you suggest that musicians, if they want to do more session work or join a band, get an agent, get a lawyer, get
Yeah,
what do you suggest?
yeah. The key word, okay, about session work. That's I guess session work because people know me and they want me to play on the tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I don't have an agent or an agency that does that for me. But for performing live, an agent is, it's more. That's the most important factor that you can have, that you can associate yourself with. Um, it's there seems to be, from what I heard from agents themselves, especially of the metal rock genre, that
Hmm.
they are beginning to develop acts,
Hmm.
which is something very rare because back in the day, you would not get an agent unless you had a record deal. And now it seems like agents are looking at social media response. Like if you have
Hmm.
a lot of followers in social media, they will look at the areas, they will look at the algorithms of and the logistics of the areas where you have your biggest fan base and book you there, which
That
is a
makes sense.
whole yeah, it's a whole different strategy than it used to be. So that means that that is a positive for the up and coming bands that might not necessarily have a record deal but do have a following on social media. So
Hmm.
definitely the agent. The agent is the most important factor you're going to have.
Wow, that's cool.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to call your agents and see if they have any time.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember.
look around on websites for agents that actually develop. They'll have like a roster of up and coming bands.
That's cool. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a little bit older than a lot of the guys now that are just so into the web thing and all the social media. I still get calls around for gigs based on who I know, but I've been hoping at some point my kids are going to be a little bigger, I get back out more and start doing auditions. I don't even know what city to go to these days. I mean, where would you recommend is like the place to see bands and audition for bands and that sort of thing? Is it still LA, Nashville, New York to you?
I can tell you, not LA, or at least in my circuit, maybe Nashville.
Yeah,
It's a social media industry right now.
right.
That's yeah, the social media presence is
Hmm.
so important. Really is.
Yeah.
That's the way to build a fan base nowadays.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think it's got its good and its bad, but overall, I think the things we can learn and the people we can connect with seem to be invaluable.
Well, I
So,
mean, we're gonna do the cycle of the conversation by me telling you that social media to me is,
oh,
if you use it in a way that you make presentations,
hmm,
not a debate, not a debate of like, okay, guys, this is happening, and then people start commenting. Well,
hmm,
positive, negative, positive, positive, negative. So it becomes like, no, no, this is an announcement. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, well, that's your opinion. So if you
hmm,
start looking at it that way, it's like advertising. When somebody advertises a car, let's say Mustang, we have the new Mustang. It's not about people making, oh, Mustang, I don't like that car. I used to have them. No, they don't care. They're just making an announcement. This is it.
Hmm.
So a band is the same way. I mean, we used to make records, and it was like that, get a song on the radio, and people either gonna go, I love that song, or I hate that song. And if they love that song, they'll come to your show. And that's
Yeah.
it. It's very simple. It's not
Hmm.
creativity by committee. It's not. That's not the way artists work. It's like if you're making a painting or a sculpture, you can throw, you do brush strokes and you go, what do you guys think? Should I put more red? More blue? No,
Hmm.
you do it. It is a vision. You create it. You present it, and that's it. People make a decision. So
That's
if you
that's
if you
enlightening,
use
man. That's
yeah,
cool.
if you use social media that way, the way it should be, it's art. What we do is art, music. You make a
Hmm.
presentation. You're sharing with them your creativity. That's a gift. You're gifting them with your creativity, time that you put in, your imagination, your heart. You're opening up your heart. Remember that when we're talking about 432, you have to listen to music with your heart. Open
Yeah.
up, listen to it. So you're giving, especially nowadays, you're not even selling the music anymore. You're putting it for free on YouTube. You're sharing it with them.
Yeah.
It's a gift. If you don't like my gift, regift it. Give it to somebody else. They might like it.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, that's enlightening, man. I mean, I think the industry's changed, but I personally still love playing so much. I just want to keep doing it, and now I'm getting to. I've always been a drummer, but I played guitar, and now I started learning it more online, and so I could teach, And I think I'm getting to a point where I'm just starting to develop my own music, and been a little bit, like shy to do it, but I do love making it, and I think at some point I might be able to put my own band together because it's the band I haven't gotten to play in yet, and I have a vision of it to some degree. So it's a passion project, but I think they all should be that way.
Yes.
So that's nice to hear from your perspective that that's still like we said at the beginning. It just always have the fire.
Always.
Awesome, thank you, man. Well, I think we are just about our time, and it has gone very quickly.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah,
has.
I'm sure a little. What kind of dog is it that you have?
Yorkshire Terrier. She was here and then she left.
Oh, yeah, I have a little Bichon myself. She's
She
a
brought me one of
14.
her toys. This is what one of her favorite ones.
Oh,
It has a squeaky in it.
is,
And I guess
is,
since we were doing the interview, I seem to have ignored her, so she left the room. But she'll be
oh,
back.
you'll
She
be
didn't go
back.
too far.
That's cool, man. Well, I look forward to seeing you play live. I really would love to to see you with anyone, but definitely if you guys are coming around New York, I'll
I
make
would
sure
love
to
to. New
get.
York. I love New York. I got some incredible memories playing there so many times.
Yeah,
Ozzy, Quiet Riot, Whitesnake, Dio. You know, yeah.
awesome. Do you have a favorite venue you'll be back to?
Well, my favorite to play there was actually two: the Garden and Madison Square Garden, and then Meadowlands was great. I love the Nassau Coliseum and Jones Beach. Yeah, I mean, there's
Oh,
so
cool.
many. Oh, the what is it? The one that's it's outdoors on the freeway. What's that? The Pack, the
And
PNC.
PNC, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, there's so many great gigs. I mean, I'm I haven't been raised in West New York, New Jersey. It's like coming home. I was watching the Saints of Newark.
Yeah,
Uh,
how is it? I haven't seen it.
it's phenomenal, phenomenal. And it was
Cool.
so funny because yeah, Joey Coco Diaz is a friend of mine, dear friend.
Uh-huh.
He's Cuban, raised in that area, in West New York, where I was raised, and to see him in his 60s period movie of which is when he was in New Jersey as a kid, but see him as a grown up
Yeah,
portraying somebody was like, whoa, this is like time warp thing going on here. It was just phenomenal. What a great movie. Great.
that's cool.
And Gandolfini's son, Michael, is plays his role
Yeah,
of Tony Soprano
yeah.
as a teenager. Mind blowing.
What a
It's
trip.
like, wow, this is incredible. I mean, especially for
Wow.
somebody who's a fan of The Sopranos, who
Yeah.
followed every season. Oh yeah,
Oh
beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful.
Oh yeah. We drove
Yeah,
right back behind here. My wife and I went food shopping, and we passed a building, and I said, that's that first scene in the first episode where the guy goes to a building and he drives up on it and he pulls the guy out and he beats him. That was that building. It's right behind our house, like where our
wow.
town is. And it was like,
Yeah,
it's even the
yeah,
intro. I used to watch it with my friends, and the intro where they're
yeah,
driving, that's right where we live. Heaven is a spa, Route 46. We're like, oh, look,
yeah,
and now when I watch it, it's a trip because it's what it looked like 20 years ago. And I
yeah,
can't believe 20 years have gone by already.
yeah, yeah,
So time
yeah.
flies.
Yeah, Joey Coco moved back to Jersey. I really miss him because we used to hang out frequently here in LA. But he's really happy out there. He's back home.
Right. Well, I hope you get to come back and
I
hang out as well,
I
not just
will. I'll
play.
let you know. I'll have you come
Okay.
come to the. I'll put you on the list. Take care of you.
All right, my man. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you so
So I
much. God
think
bless you.
everyone thanks you and sends their praise and love, and we hope to see you again here on Creative Exchange. Thank you again.
Looking forward to it. God bless you. Bye
All
bye.
right, thank you, man. Bye, everybody. And I'll be on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Friday night here at my studio for my own Creative Exchange I do every Friday. So hopefully you guys will check that out as well. And I'll be playing some songs in dedication to you, Ruby. So keep the surprises coming. Thank you, man. Bye, everybody. Let's see.